Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of EverTrue Reruns. My name is Scott Cordisci. Glad to be your host and the radio voice of Brown football. And this week, it is Cornell week. Yes, no real live football in the Ivy League in 2020 due to the pandemic. But if there were, the Bears would be taking on the Big Red at Brown Stadium today. So what we're doing this week is we're going to take a look back at one of Brown's wins over the Big Red from 1975, Brown 45 and Cornell 23. And joining us to talk a little bit about it from the class of 76, Dan, is it Detore? Am I pronouncing your last name right, Dan?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Detore, Detore.
Well,
And I always thought it was Detore.
Dan, you were an offensive.
It's accent aigu. That's what it is. Accent aigu.
An all Ivy offensive lineman. Thank you for joining us. Also from the O-line, from the class of 77, George Caraberis. George, how are you?
Good to see you, Scott.
It's great to see you as well. He's in the witness protection program, so we're just going to have a still shot of him up for this one. Mike Wallace from the class of 77, a great defensive lineman and wrestler at Brown. Hey, Wally.
How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well. It's great to talk to you once again. From the class of 76, a defensive back. In fact, he led the team in picks that year with 3 in 1975. Tom Clark is with us. Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Tommy.
Doing great. Hey, guys. Good to see everybody.
Well, it's great to have you with us. Also from the class of 76, a linebacker, Tom Ford. Tom, how are you?
Doing well, Scott. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun. From the class of 76, a defensive back as well, Mark Herendeen. Mark, how are you?
I'm great. Just thanks, Scott.
Well, thank you for joining us.
I have to relay one anecdote about Dan Detore, because our freshman year, when we went out to our first practice, I saw Dan and he had a black tank top on and his shades, and I thought to myself, what have I gotten myself into? This is not going to be good. You know, you didn't want him pulling and coming around the corner and just demolishing you. Not a good thing.
And he liked Bruce Springsteen, too.
That's right. Yes.
Well, that was okay.
Dan, with a vowel at the end of your name, you must have fit right in the city of Providence, right?
Well, from being from Jersey, Val at the end of my name, I fit right in. Buddy Cianci was my buddy. We fit right in. We stood right in there. It was perfect. I looked the part.
Well, guys, as we speak over the next
How about Paul
Koza
Koza from 76?
Yeah. Is Paul? Oh, there he is. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mark stopped me with the introductions. That's right. Paul, that's my mistake. From the class of 76, a D lineman. In fact, you returned a lateral from Sherman, if I'm not mistaken, that year.
It's a beautiful memory.
It showed up somewhere in the stats, but you were an all Ivy guy yourself, defensive lineman. Paul, thanks for joining us.
It was a miracle, yes.
That was the fastest 3 yards Paul ever ran, I can tell you.
I had a full field of 40 yards ahead of me, nobody ahead of me, and you watch it on film, there's a defensive back on the other 10-yard line, and he closes 75 yards from the time I closed 30. Jumped on me, and I got the wind knocked out of me. The ball was okay, though. It was a great play.
1975, for some of you, it was the senior year. A terrific season. 6 wins, 2 losses, and a tie. You were 5-1-1 in second place in the Ivies, behind only the hated Harvard Crimson. And that Cornell game, which is playing as we speak, you guys thumped the Big Red. In fact, you jumped out to a 31-0 lead. And doing a little research on that game, George, it was actually scoreless midway through the first quarter. And from the midpoint of the second quarter to the midpoint of the third quarter, you guys put up 31 points.
Yeah, I think, again, going into that game, I think we were coming off the Princeton win. And when you look back at the season, we were gaining confidence. And I think even though maybe it was that trip to Cornell, I think, in those days, maybe it's the same. We still had to take a bus there the day of the game. And maybe it took a while to warm up, but nevertheless, I think we had a lot of confidence going into that game, and it started to show in the second quarter.
George, they made you take a bus. We were on a plane that looked like it was coming from Normandy. We were dropping.
I don't remember being on a plane.
Yeah, it was a 2-engine prop thing. We all got on and we were like, oh my God. This is
DC-3, but that was in 1973.
Yeah,
that was the 73
that may have been
game.
maybe
It was a
maybe the
40-year-old
defensive line
plane.
went by plane and the offensive line went by bus. I don't know.
As Rodney Dangerfield would say, no respect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but you scored pretty much in 15 minutes. You scored 31 points, and you put the game away 31-0 at the time, and the final score would be 45-23. But Bob Farnham, as you might expect, had a big game. He had 14 catches for 186 yards and a touchdown. Kevin Slattery had a couple of TDs for you as well.
Bless.
It was an offensive game.
Yeah, and I think Bobby
Bobby
broke, I think, was it a single game record that day?
He
But,
did.
And as you know, by the end of the year, I mean, Bob. Well, I think at that game maybe he was leading the nation in receptions. I mean, he was coming into that game with a hot hand.
That was our third year in a row of thumping the Big Red.
Yeah, Paul,
And you guys beat them too, so we beat them all 4 years. If you look at that.
We did.
From 1973 through 1979, Brown won, the last 7 years of the decade of the 70s. We
Big
beat
Red.
Yeah.
You know what was fun about that? They would take us on a bus on Thursday up to Foxborough because they played on turf up in Ithaca.
Yeah.
And we'd get to Foxborough, and I remember getting off the bus, and over in the corner, this guy is jumping over bags, and it was Sam the Bam Cunningham. They were practicing hurdle, and we went over. We were jumping over one bag.
Paul, you said that the Cornell game was an offensive game, but you said it with a certain amount of disdain in your voice.
Well, there were a few games that were a little more challenging, but no, hey, we were a team. We were a team for sure. Danny and I, that game was played at a way different level back in the 70s, about 6 inches off the ground. If you looked at my helmet, it was all scarred up from banging into Danny for like 4 years in a row. Mark was scared of Danny. I had to go against him every freaking day. So it was fun. It was fun stuff.
Dan, do you remember what you tipped the scales at your senior year?
Well, when I came there as a freshman, I was about 275 pounds, but I blew my knee out my sophomore year. And so I changed my game from a power game to a position game. And I was down about 245, 250, maybe the most, junior and senior year. I came back from a knee operation that they said I wouldn't be able to ever play again. And I was lucky enough to be able to get through 2 more years. And a lot of that is because I had great guards next to me, great tight ends next to me who really helped me out, and Paul, who pushed me every single practice. So, and he's right. We literally, to get underneath Paul, you had to like crawl on the ground. He was like, he played on all 4s. So you had to like get underneath him. And that was, it made each one of us better every single practice.
Scott,
had a lot of success.
Scotty, listening to that 73 group and talking about the coaches coming in, we had an incredible staff, though, on both sides of it, because you had Billy Russo as our freshman coach. He was the O-line coach. We had Joe Worth, and Joe was a madman and just incredible coach. And it was just so fun. I remember, the only thing I remember the Cornell game is Tommy's buddy, Donnie Finelli, was this incredible freshman, sophomore year. Tommy was telling me was leading the nation in scoring, and he got hurt. Yeah. So by senior year, they moved him to fullback. So they were running dive option, and Joe was slanting us to strength. And I remember I slanted across the guard, and I saw they were going to fake it to Finelli. So I reached out to grab the quarterback, and back then they had those tearaway jerseys. I don't know if those things were like paper. So I'm ripping this thing, and Finelli, got me right in the gut. And I almost threw up on him, So he tells Tommy how he blows me out. Well, he doesn't tell him the next series where Joe loops us. I come scot-free, and they're doing a fullback draw. Boom! That was it for Donnie.
Finelli had a nice, about 24-yard run, though. Give it to him. He was a great back.
Great back.
He and I are still very close friends. We talk often.
Okay, that's good, because a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, good guy, too.
The scoring was led off by Jose. Is it? How do I pronounce it?
Violante.
And he was
Jose.
an Ivy kicker. 47-yard field goal. He started off the scoring for you guys in the second quarter.
Yeah.
He went by Jose.
251s in his
career.
Well, yeah,
he was a real asset, and we were fortunate to have a kicker like that. And again, I guess they're still doing it, but he was on the soccer team as well. So.
Well, you guys had a lot of two-sport guys. George, you were one of them. You played lacrosse.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wally,
Yeah.
you were a great wrestler at Brown as well. In fact, I think you're in the Brown Athletic Hall of Fame for wrestling, are you not?
Yes, I am. Thanks.
Yeah. And
He's the only guy
that
that worked in
Reggie
a
Williams
flying
match again.
in fact, Wally,
No.
Wally, you're one of the few maybe double inductees into the Brown Athletic Hall of Fame because the 76 football team, the Ivy champions, are in. So you're in as part of that. And then as a wrestler, that's pretty special.
Yeah, it really is. Very happy about that. That was really two nice evenings. Right, George?
It was. Super.
I've talked to some of the guys. A lot of you guys from the class of 76, right? You weren't there in the fall of 76 when they won the Ivy championship. But I know Mike Burnett tells me this all the time, and it's true. You guys really laid the foundation for the success and the championship a season later.
Well,
Yes, we agree.
But the 76 team just had the drive, and they really put it together. I'm proud of them. The guys that followed us are really a great team, and look at it. They've held together for the past 40 years. I mean, they're constantly in contact. It's they had something special there, I think.
We had a chance, undefeated going into that Harvard game.
Right. I mean,
Scotty, we were up 10-0 in
that
that Harvard
now.
game. 10-0 in the Harvard game senior year. And Joe had decided to go with a 4-4 stack, called it the White Rat. And Wally was playing linebacker instead of nose tackle. And Joe Restick was a brilliant coach. He went double tight, double wing, double reverse motion, had 4 guys in a pattern, and he won a wheel route with the fullback with Wally chasing him. I think the fullback had 5 touchdowns that day.
Yeah, but I would agree, though. I mean, going into that game, we really had, we had lit up Cornell. We had beaten Princeton, who had beaten Harvard, right? And we were playing at the time. We were playing for the Ivy League championship.
We were.
I mean, if we didn't have the tie, right, against Dartmouth, we would have been co-champs.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
true.
true.
We were lucky to get that tie. Jose made that field goal in the rain.
We were lucky to get the tie. I remember that. I don't, well, they had Reggie Williams then, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, remember, that was the first, the other 2 games against Harvard were on TV, but they're up in New England. This was the first one televised down in Jersey. So for me and you, George, New Jersey and New York. We had Keith Jackson in the booth. And man, we were fired up, and we shit the bed basically.
Well, it was 10-0.
Scott, it was in the Daily News actually the day of the game, and they point out that they talk about the history of Brown football up to that point, which was pretty disastrous, right? But then they point out that we're going to be playing that day was November 15th, 1975. We're going to be playing for the Ivy League championship, and the game was sold out, and people couldn't believe that the game was sold out up in Providence. They had never heard of it,
Well, I remember going out just for the pregame, the early group that went out for like punt return, practice punting, kicking, and we usually walk out. There's 15 people in the stands. We walked out. We came out of the little thing there, and it was like a standing ovation. The place was packed already.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Most of our games senior year were sold out, though. I remember, a lot of games were sold out. It was pretty awesome to see 17,000 on the big wall.
Yeah. Now they try to give out pizza to get the people there, but it works sometimes.
Mark,
the one moment though, Scotty, on that Harvard game, we're up 10-0, and Gary Kubacki, I think maybe his first name, Kubacki was the quarterback for Harvard. He had hurt his knee. They said he wasn't going to play. He gimps out in the second quarter, proceeds to throw 5 touchdown passes. We're up 10-0. It was 35-10 at half. Yikes. That was it. That was it.
We were running around and lost.
Now, in 75, you guys used 2 quarterbacks. Is that correct?
No, year before, right?
No, 75. We had Bateman and Mahalka.
Did Paul play? I don't know. I always remember Bateman playing more than Paul. But
no, after the Holy Cross disaster, they switched to Mahalka.
Yeah.
He got hurt in the Princeton game, I think.
Agreed.
Okay.
He was playing well.
And in Cornell, you look at Bateman had 200 plus yards passing, and then Paul came in and he had about 150 yards.
That's right.
So
So,
he
I
must
mean,
he
it
must
was,
have got hurt later then. Yeah.
It was a
Well, I
good
think
game.
when Paul came in, because I was looking at that, I think the score was 31-7 at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
He
But
might have got
I
hurt
don't know,
later.
Dan. I don't
mean to
remember it.
disparage.
But again, maybe my head was down and I wasn't paying attention.
I don't mean to say negative things about Bateman, but you know, Paul was more of, I guess because he had been there, I think we all kind of.
Yeah.
We were all behind Paul.
We
more.
were rallying around him.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't want to like make any, you know, disparaging statements, but
So
that's.
Scotty-
Everybody wanted Halco to play.
Yeah.
Scotty, so for the Cornell game,
Yep.
Cornell's coach, George Seifert.
Yes.
Yeah, it's yours.
Remember that name, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
you believe
Super
that?
Bowl.
And he had a terrible head coaching record going for his first 2 years, something like 3-18 or 3-15.
How about that?
He got out of there, went to Stanford, and hooked up with Walsh again.
Yeah. Imagine that, right?
Wow. Now,
They
Mark,
were thinking big things, at that point.
Mark, I mentioned, Bob Farnham and what a great player he was for Brown back in the 70s. What was it like going up against him in practice?
He was quick, unbelievable.
We're at it.
Yeah. I mean, he was so quick, and he had great moves. It was really hard to try to cover him.
He was an awesome punt returner too.
Well, he was like this, the Edelman kind of a guy,
Yeah.
He was short and catch everything that goes near him, quick as hell. That's just the way he played. He was a great player.
And
Great
Tom,
guy, too. Great
Tom,
guy.
you had 3 interceptions, led the team that year. In fact, you were 4th in the Ivies overall in interceptions. So you were a big part of that defense for Brown.
Yeah, and that was, man, I had a disappointing senior year overall because sophomore and junior year, I think I played better, and I was a little disappointed, like the way I played. Dropped a couple interceptions that the one against Penn, I still have nightmares about. It was he couldn't have lobbed it to me. I felt like UB Morgan trying to catch it. But, yeah,
UB Morgan was an incredible speedster. He just had hands like bricks, unfortunately.
But it was, we had, I at the time, with, going with, we always stayed close. And the funny thing was, I wasn't playing well, and I was very close to Joe Worth. He started me as halfway through the sophomore year, and I would help in some of the meetings, setting up the game plans, my junior year. And then I just came back, and I didn't come back in as good a shape as I should have my senior year. It was kind of a disappointing year, but I great memories of those guys, and all these guys on the call. I couldn't tell you how much I was looking forward to this call here today, just to see some guys again.
Was
Scott, if I could tell you something about Joe Worth.
Yep.
When I was a junior, I was battling Jimmy Kilcoyne. He was a great kid and big tackle. And my buddy Kip Powell's my roommate. Incredible outside linebacker, just a great defensive end. And my parents only made it to one game. I'm from Chicago, and they made it to the Cornell game our junior year. And he started me and Kip on the same side that game, just because my folks were there. And it was awesome. We made the first 3 tackles of the game and went crazy, But in that game, if you watch the tape, they went double tight and had a little wing back. And Kip had a forearm that was just killer. And every time the guy would step out to block, he would smack him in the head. So all of a sudden, we were getting all these things from the Ivy League that we were doing things a little different than we were supposed to be doing. A lot of guys were not making the games the next week, Kipper was a hammer. Tommy, you remember it.
Oh,
Joe would show that over and over. Boom, boom. Oops.
Now, Mark and Tom, if I'm not mistaken, was Goldie your position coach, Mike Goldberger?
No, we had Fred Manuel.
Fred
Yeah.
Manuel?
Freddie.
Goldie was over in
Fred
seven-
Manuel was there for about 2 or 3 years. He played at Oregon, and and he was kind of in over his head, to be honest, compared to the other coaches. But Goldie started coaching because Goldie, I think the year after George, Goldie was coaching defense.
Yeah, so he was, Goldie was our assistant freshman football coach.
Okay.
So
And
then I
70
think maybe it was the following year, he became a varsity coach.
What was Coach Anderson like? What was he like to play for?
Yeah,
A well-organized man.
Don't everybody jump in at once.
well, I think it was really two different coaching. He was more of the offensive guy, and Worth was the guy we followed really on defense. Yeah, we loved Joe Worth and Coach Ritchie and stuff. Those were great guys. So, we kind of Coach Anderson, and I'm not disparaging him. He was a good coach and stuff, but we didn't defensively. We didn't have much to do with him, really, to be honest.
Well, I think I remember talking to some other guys from the 70s, and they said, in the meetings the night before the game, Coach Anderson was very, monotone and he didn't give necessarily the rah-rah speech, but he said the offensive guy said, man, I was envious because I saw those defensive guys come out of their room and they were all fired up.
Yeah. But we did, he had a great staff around him.
Great
and
He did.
I think, as an individual, to pull those guys together to make them work individually, because everybody, I think, again, when I think of Andy Talley, Worth and Ritchie, talk about egos, right? I mean, very easily they could have been distracted, in terms of like who's getting credit, who's doing this. So
Think about it.
He must have did something right.
Think about a coaching tree. I mean, Talley went to Villanova. Russo went to Lafayette. All those guys got head coaching jobs. Joe even went to Union and really ran it. And then the guys below that played for him. I mean, he really did a good job.
And then Ritchie went up to the Canadian League, right?
Yeah, that's right.
He won the Grey Cup, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then even Hank Small, the quarterback coach, I think he went out to Bowling Green or something like that. Or,
Right.
Tora.
I see Phil Bartlett. I see his image. Well, I don't see him, but I see a little graphic there.
Oh yeah, no, I'm here, George, and I was wondering, we looked up my class. We looked up to Coach Russo a lot. He was like our freshman year. He really pulled the team together. He wasn't the head coach, but I would think you guys on the offensive line must have loved playing for Coach Russo. Let me know what you think.
Yeah. I mean, I'll let Danny, chime in, because Danny, obviously, both of us had that experience, but Billy recruited me, and, he recruited Elliot as well, preceded me, also went to Farmdale High School, also played on the, started that year. He and I were both the guards, but I think about some of those meetings we had when we were reviewing films, right? And I always loved when we were reviewing, going into the game. And I still remember when we were going to go up to play Dartmouth, and he runs this reel of Reggie Williams just like flying around making tackles. He's going, oh yeah, there he is. Superman, right? Reggie Williams, man. He's going to eat you guys up. He was a motivator. I like Billy a lot, and a genuinely good person.
We loved the guy, and to show you how times have changed. In practice, he would let us do spearing drills, which we adopted very well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, hey, George, let me tell you a story about Coach Russo, right? Because he recruited Detore. Whoops. I got out of here. Out of here. Am I there?
Yep.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, we got you, Phil.
Yeah. So he recruited
Hey,
Danny.
Kev, I'm on that.
And so my freshman year,
I'll call you back.
we show up to practice, and there's this guy. He looks like he's 30 years old, and he's been shaving, since he was 8. And it was Danny Detore. Looked like, I said to myself, oh my God, I hope I don't have to go against this guy, right? So the first day of pads, freshman year, they do a nutcracker drill. And so our coach, the defensive line coach, Bartlett, you get out here. And Russo goes, Detore, you get out here. I'm like, oh shit, right? And I'm going to get killed. And I just got off the ball before he moved, and I was able to stop the running back at the line of scrimmage, and I did good. But Russo goes nuts. He goes, no way, line up, do it again. And my coach goes, nope, Bartlett out. Next guy in. I was saying, thank God.
Yeah, it was probably Koza in, and then Danny's all pissed off.
Yeah, exactly. I think I want to go against Danny Detore a second time. No way.
And you mentioned you came in at 275, which, by the way, back in the 70s, that was big for an offensive lineman, because even
Really big, yeah.
NFL, linemen went 250, 260, 270, 275. That's good size.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good sight. You know, you talked about how we felt about John Anderson, and I got to tell you, as George said, he really wasn't that hands-on. He let his staff do the work, but his system was a really good system, and his coaches really implemented his system, and he adapted. I will echo what Tommy kind of hinted to, is we thought Paul Mahalka was going to be our quarterback senior year, and we were going to do a lot of running and gunning, and then Bobby Bateman transferred from Vermont, and we ended up with a lot of drop back. And, you know, offensive linemen hate nothing more than blocking for a drop back quarterback. You know, the guys like Paul and Phil would pin their ears back and just come at you. So we really rooted for Paul big time for a lot of reasons. But we had a lot of success as sophomores. We were used to two different style quarterbacks, because we had Bateman and what's
Dennis
the other one?
Coleman.
Dennis Coleman.
Beatrice
What was drop back and what
Yeah.
was a runner. So we were used to that. We were hoping that we were just going to do some running and gunning. But it worked out great. But Billy was terrific. And he was more of a friend, but he's a great motivator, as George said. He would push you, and he'd grade you hard on every week. And then he'd give out sweatshirts for cheap shots and stuff like that. So yeah, it was good. He was a great guy. He was a great coach.
Now you got arrested for that.
There's no
Yeah,
such
now you
thing as
can't pull that off
clipping if
anymore.
you're within a yard of the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah, it was legal. It was legal, as long as you didn't get caught. And Elliot and I think, got every week we got the cheap shot sweatshirt every week. So it was great.
Elliot was the cheapest.
Yeah, he was the cheapest.
He
Yeah.
was.
We had
He
the
was
whole
an ankle
collection of
biter.
them.
He was an ankle biter.
George, I want
Mike Wallace, are you still on the line? Because you had, I think you read something the last time about that. Yeah, that's me. I don't know. I looked.
look at that mustache, Caraberis.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that, George?
I was a hairy guy then, man.
How did you play offensive line weighing in at 200 pounds?
Yeah. They even tried to convince people I was, 220, 225. Billy used to stand behind me when I got on the scale. He was afraid people would really see my real weight and put his foot on it.
George had a
Technique, Scott. It was
stance.
all technique.
George
Yeah.
had a stance that was developed at West Point. He would rock into this weird, look like a robot. I was like, wow, be careful of that guy.
Somehow I made it through. I don't know. I still remember junior year after the Columbia game, I just felt so beat up. And I said, I got to put on a little bit of weight, man.
Hey, Scott, Mark mentioned
Right.
Tora. So Tora came out during triple sessions. I think it was our sophomore year, maybe, or junior year. Must have been sophomore. And that was a drill that Coach Ritchie and Tommy participated in this drill. Guys what'd you do, Tom? You had a back pedal, you had to hit a guy, and then a guy would be standing in front of the pad, and you would go full bore and smoke the guy into the pad. He would just scream, Tora. Oh, God.
So it was a drop back and then attack, but they tried to make you exhausted by going back and forth for 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, so
before
you wouldn't kill the
were
guy when you got there.
through. Yeah.
Guys,
So
anything
there's a
else?
great memory of Ames Ressa holding the bag, and Paul Serrano is one of his first practices, comes up and he nails the bag and Ames just flattened right on his back. I mean, Serrano had a great hitting platform, a strike platform.
He and a great clothesline. See, that was the other thing.
Right.
Clotheslines were legal. Clotheslines were legal.
That was the
Anybody
Penn
across
game,
the
right?
middle-
The
Right,
Penn
yeah, that
game
may have
when he
been
came off sideline there.
That's right, Joe. I was just going to say that may have been the best that he ever had. He was on the sideline. It was the guy's name was Wickstead, the running back from Penn.
Right, that's
I
right.
remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Jack Wickstead,
Yeah.
I think. God.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they didn't
he
call
was-
anything.
No,
There was no
they
call.
didn't say
Reference.
there was 2, but we saw it on the film.
Oh my God! Everybody said, "Wait, play that back."
Now,
I think some of the best moments though would be Coach Ritchie with his headset on and a long wire and somebody standing on it, and he would go running down the line to start getting the signals in, and Muzzy or somebody standing on his court, and his head would get ripped back off, and he'd start going crazy. We'd all start laughing. It was a craziness on the sidelines, I'll tell you.
now, 75, Kevin Slattery was your leading rusher, correct?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
God
yeah.
bless him.
You had a guy by the name of McNamara that was next on the team. He averaged 4.1 yards per carry. Was he a tailback or a fullback?
Fullback.
Yep.
He played all 3 years. Really good.
Yep.
Bobby Mack and I went to grammar school together, and then played against each other in high school. He went to the Catholic high school, so and then we were roommates junior year and my junior year in college. So yeah, Bobby and I knew each other. Bobby was as tough as they come.
It was
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, both running backs were very tough. I mean, really put their heart and soul into the game.
I think offensively, you guys, I want to say were the top scoring offense in the league in 75, maybe second in total yards, just behind Harvard that year.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's probably the offense was. Our big year on defense was the previous year when we were ranked 8th. We were ranked. What was it? 8th in the country overall.
Total yardage.
Third.
We were third against the run.
Third against the run.
It was a Street and Dunn had us Notre Dame, Michigan, Brown against the run.
Pretty good.
Love statistics.
Yeah, I think, Scott, to your point, I think when you look back in the record books, at least at that point of time, right, we broke a lot of records on offense that year. I mean, when I came up my freshman year, maybe it was, or the sophomore year, I mean, I think we beat Princeton at home, and it was like the first time since 1956 or something like that. There was stuff like that, like you going, but all of us, I believe, we bought into the idea that, we all were winners. And when we got to Brown, we were going to continue that tradition. And we really felt that, and we saw that happening right away. I saw it happening right away.
Right.
That we had a real chance to be Ivy League champs and to win the league.
We
we were very close in 75,
Well, the cool thing was you and I had, Tommy, was we were helping coach the freshman team in 1976, and we got to see every home game that George played.
We bonded as a freshman group. Scotty, we bonded as a freshman group.
Well, you guys had freshman football back then, right?
Yeah.
So that really brought you guys probably closer together than today when you don't have freshman football anymore.
The varsity the year before had gone 0-9, and we went 5-0 as freshmen. And, we'd be scrimmaging the varsity, and we did a pretty good job against the varsity that year.
Russo had us going crazy in the scrimmages.
Yeah.
Tell them how many freshman recruits we had on our team and on George's team.
A lot. I think we went out, we always say there was at least 100 something.
We called it the 100. You open the door for the 100.
And we were talking about that earlier. I mean, Mark pointed out, we had every, imaginable kind of player that could put on a football uniform and shoulder pads, man. It was
we had
really
some guys that
quite
had
an
100
assortment
on their SATs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if the Brown records are right, but I was on brownbears.com, and for some reason it said that you guys played in Ithaca in 74 and 75, 2 years in a row. I don't know if that was
It was 73 and 75.
73 and okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
you rotates every year.
Yeah.
So in 73, we had huge snowflakes.
But the year, but Scott,
Yeah.
the following year we played Ithaca. We played up at Cornell again.
In 76.
My senior year, we played up at Cornell again.
So 75, 76.
Yeah.
75,
Yeah.
76.
Why was that the case? Why would you play there 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
Just because of schedule, because we had that with somebody else. Dartmouth, I think, played somebody else that played 2 years in a row by us. I can't remember which team. I think it was Dartmouth. Sophomore and junior year, Dartmouth was at
And then I think again, Yale, my junior year, your senior year, we played Yale at home. And then we played Yale again at home, my opening game my senior year.
Yeah, it must have been some kind of scheduling.
How about sophomore year? It got so bad that Holy Cross dropped us and we couldn't get it. Ninth game.
Yeah,
So we had a bye week. I
Is that
remember
right?
practicing,
Yeah.
watching Notre Dame Michigan game on TV. I was like, oh, somebody else is playing.
Hey, Scott, if I might just jump in for a second. You talked about Kevin Slattery and the records that at the time he was going into the Columbia game, he had a hip pointer and he really wasn't able to run very much or practice that week, but he was a few yards shy of the rushing title at the time and for the most rushing yards in season, a Brown record. And George will back me up. And he said, I can't do it. I just can't get out there and play. And we told him, listen, we'll pick you up and carry you for those yards if we have to, because that's the only thing the offensive lineman could ever brag about. So he dressed, and we literally did whatever we had to do. He broke the record, and he ran off to the sidelines, and that was it. But we made sure he got the record, because that record was really our record as well.
Yeah.
We all love Kevin. Kevin was one of the best. That broke all our hearts when he passed. Terrible.
So, you know, his uncle was Whitey Ford.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, I got a story about the junior year Columbia game. So Tommy's mom brings a case of beer, hides it under the stands. We're in where is that, in Harlem? Was the stadium Columbia?
Yeah.
Columbia was in Harlem.
We're
in Harlem.
Morningside Heights, right? Where's that? Columbia?
Heights. So his mom comes and hides a case of tall boys under the bench. So we're into the third quarter, and all of a sudden, Markey decides that he's going to try to block the extra point about 5 minutes after it goes through the upright. So he smokes the holder. Neil Reardon gets into it, and all of a sudden, you were 28, right?
Right.
Who was 28?
I was
Tommy?
28, yeah.
Tommy's 28, Neil Reardon's 8. And I got to defend. I go in, and the only good player they had was a kid from Chicago, Thornridge High School. He was about 6'7", offensive lineman. So I go into the pile. He grabs me around the neck. He goes, I wouldn't go there. I go, okay. So all of a sudden, the refs break it up, and they go, all right, 28, 78, and 8. You're out of the game. And it was Mark, who was 26, who started the whole melee. So we're on the bench, and I look down underneath one of those brown tarps, and I go, oh, we got some stuff for the ride home. That was a beautiful thing. We're all adults.
You could do that back then. I mean,
it was great. So we're playing cards on the bus ride home, and Joe Wirth joined us. Remember Joe and Billy Russo? Drinking Narragansetts or whatever the hell your mom bought, Schaefer. Ugh.
Yeah, and it came back Narragansett now. Can you believe it?
I know it's a microbrew or something.
Hey neighbor,
Right.
have a Narragansett, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Narragansett on the way down, it was Schaefer on the way out.
Scotty, it was a great group of guys, though.
Oh,
I mean, seriously.
It's so much fun listening to you guys, talk about the old times. It's awesome.
Love them, and and everybody played. We all, our famous story though is we're freshmen, and we're playing Boston College in a JV game. And this is where Markey comes in, because he's from that neck of the woods, and we decide they're playing on that stadium. Eventually got revamped, but at that time the fence was right along the sideline, and guys going out of bounds, and Mark made sure he drove him right into the fence. So all of a sudden, that was a melee as well. I don't know. There were more melees,
Well, in '76, I think Chris Berman got into a melee with the Harvard radio broadcaster, who I guess was insulting Brown football, and Chris Berman didn't want to hear it.
That's beautiful. We love Chris.
That would have been up. That was up there, right?
Love Chris.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah. This is true. Chris likes to tell that story. Yeah.
That was a big turning point for us. Our junior year, beating them 10-7. We hadn't beaten Harvard forever. It was just incredible. That was a great game. Yeah.
Well, and if you remember too, right? We, that year we scrimmaged Harvard at Harvard, which again maybe was a disaster. The fact that we did that. But
that was our senior year. We scrimmaged them at Harvard, beat them up pretty good.
Was that the year they had? Was Jiggets playing that year?
Yeah, Jiggs.
Yeah.
Jiggs, I made the first 2 tackles of that game, that senior year game, and he clipped me. Oh man, my leg was like a hinge, But Frank George was great. He said, "You hurt? Did you take your ankles?" I said, "No." He says, "Stay there. Walk slowly. We're on camera."
Oh, guys, this has been great. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with us and talking about not just the Cornell game, but the '75 season, and really just some great anecdotes about your careers at Brown. Good stuff.
Sorry, we hijacked it on you a little bit there,
Oh,
Scott.
that's the way it should be.
Hey, we're looking forward to Brown football stepping up again. Coach
Well,
Barry, I
I got to tell you, I've done more work around my yard because I can't go up to Providence to watch a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it better happen next year or in the spring. I lost the spring. I couldn't go up to see lacrosse. No football. I can't work around the yard anymore. I'm too old for that.
It's brutal.
That's our one chance to get together with everybody and tell all these war stories.
Right, exactly.
It is.
You guys need to organize a Friday happy hour on Zoom. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, let's just hang on.
Guys, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Scotty.
Okay.
Thanks,
Hey, you
Scott.
guys, love you guys.
All right,
Thanks.
go
Seeing
Bruins.
everybody.
guys.
Stay healthy.
Take care, everybody.
Hope to see you
See you,
soon.
buddy.
Bye,
Think
guys.
about
Thank
spring
you.
Let's do it
football.
again.
Yeah.
Bye now.
See you guys.
See you soon.